This is a topic that's come in about immigration, and being that the election had some impact, or if you will, the topic of immigration had some impact on the presidential election. A student had asked me about clarifying some issues, and I'm not suggesting I'm right or wrong on this. What I'm suggesting is that many people, I believe, talk past one another, meaning if we talk about immigration, some people will say, I'm not about immigration or I am for immigration. And what typically happens is one side is talking about, I think both sides are talking about legal immigration, meaning America is a melting pot. Immigrants have made this country. I know I have Polish background. I went to Ellis Island, showed my Reagan, where her, let's see, that would be great grandparents came through. Actually, what line they went through, stuff like that. It's so cool to see stuff like that. New York City has that at Ellis Island, and you get to see the Statue of Liberty if you want to. But so I think most people would agree that they have no issue with legal immigration. They want people to come over and who have the American dream, and they want to work hard, and not about welfare and freebies, but they actually want to become an American or enjoy the American culture. I think most people agree with that. I haven't found a lot of people that don't. The issue is then another side will say, well, I don't really like immigration, but they don't say the term illegal immigration. And then the other side may perceive that as, well, you're being racist and you don't like Hispanics, or you don't like this fill in the blank. It doesn't really matter what group. It's just you don't like anybody. And so then that side starts making this argument that basically the other side's racist or whatever. And I don't believe that's to be true. I think most people, I like to believe that most people actually don't have issues with that. They just want people that work hard. They don't care if someone's a woman or a male, Christian, Jewish, Muslim. They really don't care about those things as long as they come to work and they work hard, or they go and get their education and do a good job at the same standard, or they join the military and work on the same level, or that they believe in the American society and dream and respect other people's rights and wishes. I believe that's what most people are talking about with immigration and other people. Now, you do find a small group that truly doesn't like immigrants at all. I mean, it's a very small group. And you get a little bit larger group of people who believe illegal immigration is okay. Okay. So, really, if someone says immigrants in general should not be allowed in, I mean, I think again, most people would say, well, there's something wrong there. What's the issue? Is it a racial issue, nationalistic issue? Having said that, if you go to Ellis Island, and I'm not going to say what political party, but there was a political party that made it very clear with federal laws that there would be no immigrants, or that these countries are considered welfare countries, and that's a new term for a term back then, or an action back then. But it was very clear, and I think it's very shocking when people go up to Ellis Island and say, well, where's all the immigrants from these decades? And a certain party said this isn't going to happen, and they actually redlined, and they had like I believe it was like a 2%, 4% rule. So it's just very interesting to see all that. Having said that, there is a small group of people who believe that everyone should be helped, and then that goes back to the Milton Friedman argument. He's a noted economist who said the the more welfare in a system, the more border control, or if you will, immigration control, a country must have. So if you have a free, open country, which the United States kind of used to be, in other words, a lot of people could come over and become Americans and work hard and make their own way, meaning there wasn't a lot of welfare or people to there wasn't a lot of programs in place to help people, then that system worked really well, open borders in a lot of ways. But as society changed and there was welfare given and benefits and things like that, there's then becomes a limited source of resources. And Friedman would note that you have to have good border control. And a lot of people forget Europe does this very heavily, especially like the European Union, in the sense of like England. I've lived there, in Germany, and they have, well, they used to, in the sense of England still does very strict immigration policy, that they give away so much so many benefits that they can't afford to bring in every immigrant, and so that causes stress and tension. So I think that's where people sit there and say, well, that's fine, but the more we give people, the less we want people to come in, and that's where you get more conflict with the immigration thing. So immigration legally may be limited because there's really not a huge need, maybe, or maybe there's technical need or job needs, but really the immigration numbers go down because the welfare keeps going up. So there is a lot of that as well. So when I tell people addressing this issue in class, really take time and throw away your preconceived notions and say, are we talking about the same thing? Are we talking about legal immigration? And then under that category, why do we have differences? Is it because of the welfare state? Is it because there's a racial component? Don't skip to say, well, you're a liberal, so you're a racist, or you're a conservative, and so you're a bigot. Enough of that. That gets old real quick. We see that in the media. We don't need it in class. So really take time. If someone is truly nationalistic, that is a different argument, and maybe go down that argument. If someone's a racist, it's really hard to debate with a racist, but that's a very, very small. I've only run into maybe one student over the many years of teaching that is truly a devoted racist and expresses it in class. Okay, so that's a very small group. So stick with the bigger things. What are we talking about? Are we talking about legal or illegal and all that? So that's a very important discussion. And then discuss maybe why we want limited legal immigration or we want open legal immigration. That's a different conversation. Then when you look at the illegal stuff, it's really hard to debate with someone about illegal immigration when they say, I believe it, because they're just like the bigot. They're just racist in a different way, okay? So it's an interesting group of people. I've seen more of these people that believe that it doesn't matter, let everybody in illegally or legally, just give them whatever they want. And it's a very hard group of people to discuss topics with. So take the time to understand it and try to make the economic arguments because you can only control your points. But in both situations, legal or illegal, make sure that you look at things like using sources and references and don't confuse decades. Some people like to do that. They go, well, America used to be this way, and now everyone's, this way. And that doesn't matter. Back then, that's a different issue. And it was different laws and different welfare and different programs and stuff like that, charity. So that it was a different decade. It applies differently, okay? So we need to look at today and what's going on here. And another thing too is, and then that stems over into the voter issue. Uh, I've found a few students that would suggest that illegals should vote. I don't understand the argument. I find it very perplexing, to say the very least. I don't feel like these people tend to document or support their work at all. And I don't really understand. Sometimes they have a motive or a political motive, if you will. So that is something I've noticed in students. Some students, very small group. So that's a different issue, is how do you keep the integrity of the United States voting system? So that's a different issue. But again, communicate, fully understand that you're not passing ships, that you're trying to talk about the same topics, the same information, and then that will help clarify the immigration issue for most people. If there's any other topics, I do appreciate the opportunity to talk about them and try to frame them up a little bit, not so much picking sides for people, but maybe directing and also giving a little bit more information. Also, if you want to subscribe, I do appreciate that. It really doesn't I don't know what to say. It's not like it's like, here's a check and I get a bonus or something, but it's just it allows you to see videos that come up, and if you're about your education or the different issues, then we can use these things in order to help students do better. Or if you just want to improve on your own, it would help you to do better in certain things, or at least frame certain questions up a little bit better. So it's not all about students. It's about people who maybe are self-learners. I don't have a problem with that either, but feel free to subscribe and help me out and video topics and things like that. I appreciate it, and best of luck.